The paper whites that we potted up last week are starting to emerge. We can see the little shoots coming up. Today we're going to pot up another bulb. This is a hippeastrum bulb, more commonly referred to as an amaryllis, but the proper genus name is actually hippeastrum. And these produce beautiful, magnificent flowers, and they'll bloom for about 7 to 10 weeks. They really brighten up the winter. Now, to pot these, we want to get an actually somewhat small container. This looks like it might be a little bit small for this bulb, but they need to feel crowded, and that'll cause them to flower. So we do want a snug fitting container. And we're going to start by putting about 2 to 3 inches of soil in the bottom, and we want to find a good depth where our final soil level will be about 2/3 of the way up the bulb. We want the upper, what we often call the shoulders of the bulb, to be exposed, as well as the neck. So put enough soil in the bottom to get that bulb up, but at least 2 to 3 inches, and then go ahead and fill in around the bulb with your potting soil. Now, as we're potting this up, we also want to put in a bamboo stake. Oftentimes our amaryllis, they have really large flowers, and sometimes they can get quite top heavy. But if we want to come back in later and stick a bamboo stake in for support, we could damage the bulb or the roots. So putting that stake in now while we're potting it up is a good way to avoid causing any damage later on. Of course, we want to water our bulb regularly. During the early stages, while it's just establishing roots, we want that soil to be damp but not soaking wet. This is going to soak in, it'll be a little bit damp, and we're going to want to water it regularly just to keep it a little damp. But once this shoot begins to emerge and grow, it'll take a little bit more water. Another great way to water small containers such as this is to take the entire container and put it in the kitchen sink and let cool water run over the soil until it just pools a little bit at the top. Then turn off the water and let the pooled up water soak into the soil, and any excess will drain out the holes in the bottom of the pot. What that does is prevent any water from sitting in the catch basin beneath our container. Now, in a few weeks, we're going to see a flower stalk begin to emerge, and these large leaves are going to unfold. As that flower stalk emerges, it's a good idea to just rotate our pot every couple of days. And what that will do is encourage this flower stalk to grow straight rather than bending towards the light. Once the flowers open, each stalk, it might produce 1 or 2 stalks, and each stalk can produce 4 to 8 flowers. But they're not all going to bloom at the same time. So once one flower dies, cut it back, but be careful not to cut into the entire stalk and cut the other flowers out. Once all the flowers on a stalk have finished blooming, we could cut it back to the base. And after all of the flowers bloom from both stalks, go ahead and cut the flower stalks out from the base, but leave our leaves in place. Those leaves are going to produce some energy that'll go back into that bulb for storage for future blooming. Now, hippeastrums are heavy feeders. We want to fertilize them regularly, either with a slow release granule fertilizer, or you could liquid feed them every 2 to 4 weeks. And this will help that plant put some extra energy in and store it, and we could keep our hippeastrums and bloom them again year after year.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.